Okay, I'm going to read you a bit from my book, because I always try and read a bit from my book as my inevitable promotion campaign manager says I must do. I don't know who he is yet. I'm trying to find. I'm going to try and find him. One day I'll find him. Okay, this is the story about the cluck story, the chicken story. So I used to play in a hotel in London. I'll read it to you.
And you sang chickens in London?
Well, here's the story. The piano was placed at the top of the lounge, above the spiral staircase that led down to the opera restaurant in the basement. Before I came along, they were used to keeping their restaurant door open so as to win the attention of passers-by from the lounge above. My friend Andrew Hollett, the manager of the hotel, agreed with me that to have two musics in one room bothered people, so these two conflicting sounds were very distressing for me, never mind that it was disturbing for the people upstairs. So I asked that the door be kept closed in the basement. This was not received well by the restaurant manager. The general manager, he asked them and backed me up. He said, please, can you keep it shut? But they would keep opening it. So Dr. Koo, Dr. Tan Sri Koo, not the evil magnate from James Bond, Dr. Koo was a billionaire guy who owns Laura Ashley, and he saw me playing at a shopping centre, and he gave me the job in this hotel. Khoo. So he would visit the hotel that he owned at random times. So when he did once, I spoke to him about the problem. And of course, everything was sorted out. But it was only sorted out for a while. As soon as he was back on his private jet and out of the country, the opera waiters gathered in the footwell, and they chose a moment when I was in the middle of this song. Some folks like to get away. Nice, a sensitive song. They stood at the basement of the opera place, and they made this big noise. When I'm like in the middle of a really sensitive piece. So I jump out my skin. So do all the people who are around the piano listening. Is this your dad? He's a sweetie pie. I'm Scottish. Irish is different. Irish people have underwear. Scottish people don't. I don't know why that's always been the case, but that seems to be the fact of life. So they sang this big note in the footwell to try and put me off my game, to disturb me. And they sustained it for a long time. I was in the middle of New York State of Mind by Billy Joel, and the people around the piano got a shock. I got a shock, but I understood, because if the restaurant in the basement where the opera is happening and the door's open, the passers-by can hear the singing, so they come, and as they're being told to close it, they're losing business, so they're really fighting for their jobs, which is what I'm trying to do just now. Anyway, what will I do? If I complain to the guy at the top, to Dr. Koo, I'm just going to be the moaning piano player. The restaurant, it makes money in the basement, but I can't do nothing because they'll keep the door open, and I can't cope with two musics at once. If you have two pieces of music playing at the same time, it's very disturbing. And it was a well-paid job. I thought, maybe I can't lose it, so what will I do? So I went downstairs and I waited for them to be in the middle of an aria. This is a restaurant that the opera stars of tomorrow were employed as waiters. And all that stuff. So I waited for this sensitive moment, and I walked in. And I walked up to each of these strategically placed opera waiters. It was a big restaurant. I went up to each one in their face. I went, then I went to the next one. I went around 4 of them. At this point, the manager of the restaurant is having a fit to himself. I can see him, there's steam coming out of his collar like a cartoon character. And I went over to him and I said, keep your guys under control. And I gave him a smile. You know, I stood up for myself, now smile. That's the whole deal, is you must stand up for yourself and then smile. The strategy, however, did not look like it was going so well. I immediately got a phone call from the general manager, Andrew, telling me to pack up my stuff and leave for the night, just in case things escalate, and to come in the next day with a written report. I went in the next day without a written report. I guess this is basically my written report. I sat in his office and he tells me off. And he tells me that I have to do a written report. But in the end he says, it was quite funny. I'm not advocating that whenever anybody gives you flack, you must stand up to them. But if you do, make sure you quickly turn it round into something pleasant when you get the chance to help win them back onto your side. Life is Grand Baby, available on Amazon for $11.99. Classical's like, I think classical's just slowed down rock and roll for people who don't get it. That's all it is, or slowed down jazz for people who don't get it. It's just music for people who don't know what music is.